You are watching us from Kambe live. This is the news here on DBS television. We begin with the headlines. Peter Mafani Musonge and his team complete their fact-finding mission to Bamenda, a mission that gave Cameroonians in that part of the country the opportunity to pour out their grievances in relation to the persisting crisis rocking the two English regions. The Muslim community begins the intensive period of the month of Ramadan, a period in which they go in search of the night of destiny. This falls within the last 10 days of their fasting period. Water, which is believed to be a free gift of nature, has become so scarce in the Douala 3 and 5 municipalities. Inhabitants here have been through tough times for 2 weeks without potable water, a situation that could lead to the outbreak of waterborne disease if not handled. Details of these stories and more up next in the news. Please do not go away. We will be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this midweek edition of the primetime news here on DBS television. Today is the 6th of June 2018. We begin with this news from Bamenda. The National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism has just completed a fact-finding mission to Bamenda. The mission enabled them to gather grievances related to the crisis that persists in the northwest and southwest regions. Philip Sote has details of that story in this report.
The multi-purpose hall of the Presbyterian Church Tamalung was full to the brim. Full with members of the civil society, university lecturers, business persons, traders in the informal sector, urban transporters by car and bike, the religious, political figures and traditional rulers among others. Motivated by Commission's Chairman Peter Mafani Musonge to air out their views freely and holding back nothing, the people took the cue to denounce what they consider as the systematic assimilation of the English cultural heritage, relegation and discrimination in government business. They also raised concerns about double nationality, especially for Cameroonians abroad. A need to give a serious thought to a return to federalism. Other points raised included political intrigues, the continuous detention and even jailing of some protesters linked to the Anglophone crisis. The role of some traditional rulers also came under sharp criticisms. They insisted that time is now more than ever before ripe for meaningful dialogue in order to bury the hatchet that has led to mistrust, a situation that has given rise to killings, burnings, lootings, refugees, interruption of school attendance, and a generalized slowdown in business. A situation that requires the creation of favorable conditions for the return of displaced persons to their places of origin, the urgent search for solutions to a return to peace, the urgent need to initiate a frank and inclusive dialogue with all the parties concerned. The resolutions have been tabled and now the people await the responses to these recommendations.
In religious news, Muslim faithfuls have entered the last 10 days of Ramadan, a period during which spiritual activities have been intensified. We have details of this story with Amadou Jallo Boba.
The month of Ramadan 2018 is in its last phase, thereby making the Muslims to intensify their spiritual ties with the Almighty by spending the greater part of their daily calendar in praying, reading the Holy Quran for both men and women. The last 10 days of Ramadan have both spiritual and historical importance in Islam.
We have what we are calling itikaf. Itikaf, it is leaving your home to remain inside the mosque during these 10 days by worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal, by invocating Him, because during the last day there is one night which we are calling Laylatul Qadr, which is more than 83 years of hasanat, of rewarding. For this reason, every Muslim should find out this night. And during these 10 days also, you will notice that lots of Muslims are praying during the night from 1 to 3 a.m.
Performing greater acts of generosity during this period is considered vital for both spiritual, social and economic well-being of the society.
During these days, the Prophet ﷺ was more charitable with brothers and neighbors. For this reason, every Muslim, by visiting our people who are in the jail and also people who are at the hospital, and by helping each other.
Ramadan is said to be a period for the Muslims to reflect on their way of life and make necessary corrections.
Inhabitants of the Douala 3 and Douala 5 municipalities are said to have gone for over a period of 2 weeks without potable water. For the sake of need, they have resorted to private borehole water, normally called forage. Rail Ule Abia recount that story in this report.
For about 2 weeks, the situation of potable water in this neighborhood has been from bad to worst. This precious liquid has become so scarce for the inhabitants of Cité de Palmier and Logbaba for so long that they have resolved to go long distances in search of this nature's gift. At the water point, which is from a private source of forage, the wait is long, but like they say, half bread is better than none. According to them, the problem of water has slowed down every housework. It has become difficult to even wash plates, talk less of bathing. The lack of water has brought everyone out thanks to private sources as this, while inhabitants of Cité de Palmier and those of Logbaba worry about what is happening. An agent of the Cameroon Water Distributing Company tells us the fault is at the level of Peka Wheat, where road works are ongoing, and for that reason there has been a disconnection from that junction, and the probability is that it would only be reconnected after works are completed for water to start flowing again in those neighborhoods.
We remain in the Douala 3 municipality, and this time we talk about the poor state of roads. And Rail Ule Abia tells us that the road leading from Dokoti to Chateau Nyala in that part of the city leaves much to be desired. Her reports.
This is what has become of the stretch of road leading from Dokoti to Chateau Nyala in the Douala 3 municipality. It is a nightmare driving through. The state of degradation is so bad even bike riders, talk less of pedestrians, have difficulties using the road. Talking to road users, it is so difficult getting across. At some hours of the day, it is all traffic. If it does not cause a delay, it helps to destroy cars, given that cars get stuck in some of the potholes. It is all galloping through Nyala to Ndokoti. Likewise, it all started as a bird's nest, only to be transformed with time to an elephant's bed. Bad for the state, given that this road should be leading to one of the stadiums to host the African Cup of Nations 2019. Apparently, this is not at the level of the municipality, so the mayor has nothing to do here. But it is at the level of the government delegate to ensure that roads are maintained, rehabilitated or constructed. Unfortunately, nobody is doing a thing. Either the powers that be are not aware of what is happening here, or they are negligent as always. While the road Ndokoti Nyala is getting worse, renovation works are ongoing on the stretch of road Chateau to Yassa, as if to say it is a mockery. More tar is added to tar. For now, road users are urging the mayor of the Douala 3 municipality to sit up and do something about this stretch of road that leaves much to be desired. As a matter of fact, it is a way in from Yaoundé and way out from Douala. It is time the powers that be step up implementation strategies to produce roads that depicts a country expected to emerge by 2035 and to host the AFCON 2019.
The phenomenon of bad states of roads in the country's economic capital is becoming a cause of concern, especially for city dwellers. This is not the case only in Douala 3 municipality, but elsewhere. The point in question here is the road linking Cité de Palmier and the General Hospital. Let's take a watch in this report by Jalo Buba once more.
This road, unfortunately, is at the heart of Douala, one of the largest cities in Cameroon, and one of those earmarked to host some of the matches during AFCON 2019. From a distance look, one may hardly believe that a road of this nature, abandoned to itself, can be found at the heart of Douala. Not only that, but it is one of the major roads leading to the Douala General Hospital, which receives patients of all conditions in case of emergency. But it appears priorities have been shifted elsewhere by the power that be to the detriment of the city dwellers. Passing through here is not easy for the drivers, bike riders, and let alone their passengers. Some of the drivers spoken to are very bitter, to say the least. They decry the high taxes paid to the state and regret the high cost spent on maintenance due to negligence from someone or irresponsibility on the part of those in charge. The huge traffic hold-up and its resulting consequences during rush hours on this portion of the road can only be imagined. A situation of this nature is not only particular to Douala, but it cuts across most towns in the country that is expected to be an emerging nation by 2035. If this dream must come true, then something ought to be done to repair the road network within the country's towns, especially Douala, sooner than later.
We hope something is done on the states of roads sooner than later. We move over to the East region, where traditional rulers of the Lom and Jerem division have come out in their numbers, calling on the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, to stand for the upcoming presidential elections in 2018. In a march past, they all gathered at the governor's office to show proof of their motion of support to the president. Vanessa tells us more in this report.
Of the Lom and Jerem division, associations and well-wishers converged recently in the town of Betwa, calling on the President Biya to stand for the 2018 presidential elections. It was a matter for these chiefs to discuss on issues plaguing the country for the past year and to find an approach on how elections will be conducted in their locality. The solidarity movement towards the president was equally an occasion to say no to secession and yes to the consolidation of national unity and integration, social peace, and living together as one and undivided Cameroon. Considering the serenity and peace that had existed since the ascension to power by President Paul Biya, these traditional rulers, under the coordination of Chief Ayiba Ngari, walked through the nooks and crannies of the town of Betwa, expressing their notion of support and calling on the president to go in for these 2018 elections. Characterized with dances, they all gathered to the esplanade of the governor's office to harmonize the solidarity move in a bid to encourage the president to go in for election to realize projects for an emerging Cameroon.
From the east, we move next door to the south region, where the population of that part of the country have recently organized an ecumenical service to thank God for good deeds in their lives and equally show appreciation to the head of state, Paul Biya, for all he has been doing in the country. Seka Subairatu gives us details of that story.
It was an initiative from Dr. Mva Abomo Dominique, a young dynamic Cameroonian from the South region in Ebolova, that a Thanksgiving Mass was organized to say thank you to the Lord Almighty for the good things He has not stopped doing in their lives, and equally recognize and show appreciation to His Excellency Paul Biya for his effort in preserving peace and ameliorating the living conditions of Cameroonians. Ever since his coming to power, he has always had the objective of making Cameroon a vast construction site, and the South region, which happened to be his hometown, where he has carried out so many realizations such as the hydroelectricity power in Menkum and the Mvole Chantal gas at Kribi, construction of Belabo Road, the municipal stadium of Sang Melima, just to name a few. For these reasons, imams, pastors, priests, traditional rulers with the inhabitants of Ebolova came together in church to say thanks to Mr. President of State. During the ceremony, one of the traditional rulers says it is a good initiative from Cameroonian youth to stand behind their president to say no to violence, no to all those who want to bring disorder in the country, and it's their obligations as traditional rulers to guide and encourage such an initiative. This is because the youth are conscious that everything they are doing is for their own benefit, and also have as obligations to protect what they have achieved from their elders. The pastor on his part says they render thanks to the Lord Almighty once again for permitting the people of Ebolova to organize this Thanksgiving Mass, to thank him for everything he has been doing to them. And through the preaching from the Bible, they transmitted the message of living together and conviviality, and equally asked them to live in solidarity. And they have to put God above so as to receive all the blessings from him.
The question of living in peace is becoming a concern for everybody, like we heard there in the south. From there, we move over out of the country, and this time next door, Nigeria, where the Nigerian Navy in Cross River State is offering free medical services to one of its host communities. Although this may not be the best time for Nigerians in need of medical attention due to a nationwide industrial action by the Joint Health Workers Action Union, who are on strike. And so the Navy in Cross River States are out to alleviate the impact of the state. We have details in this report.
For several weeks, hospital wards and beds have been empty, and patients have found it difficult to get their healthcare needs, especially those in rural areas. This is certainly no hospital facility. It's the premises of a public school in Calabar's South local government area of Cross River State. But it will do just fine for residents of the community, here to benefit from a range of health services courtesy of the Nigerian Navy. Free eye tests are carried out, eyeglasses and drugs are being given. Laboratory equipment are also available for a series of other tests. Cases that cannot be handled during the exercise will be referred to the Naval Hospital in Calabar and attended to also free of charge.
For now, we're prepared for more than 1,000 of the host community members, and so the team will be here throughout the day and accommodate as many as possible. And for some cases that are beyond this immediate medical outreach, those people will be referred to our hospital for further treatment. Everything will be for free. Even those who will be coming for further engagement, those ones will be given transport and other facilities for free.
Also involved in humanitarian assistance is the Naval Officers' Rights Association. The organization in the state directs their attention to the needs of elderly citizens.
We're here at Old People's Home in Calabar to, reach out to them and make them realize that they are parts of the community and that we've not forgotten them. So we were here earlier on. We had a subcommittee which came to ask them about what they needed to make sure that we're actually identifying correctly and addressing the needs that they have, as opposed to what we imagine are the things that they need.
Gestures like this, if replicated, could help cushion the impact of the medical workers' strike, but ultimately a resolution of the underlying issue in the medical sector that will guarantee quality healthcare delivery.
Young Afghans have launched an awareness campaign called Sun Behind Curtain, aimed at overturning the customary use of the long loose garment worn in public by many Muslim women. This garment has become a favorite clothing for suicide bombers who disguise themselves as women to launch their attack. We have details with VOA correspondent.
Some argue the traditional burqa that covers a woman from head to toe has never been part of the Afghan culture.
Under the Taliban regime, the burqa became mandatory for women. We want to shed light on the background of the burqa, because wearing burqas does not exist in our culture, and we can avoid this.
Sadat is one of the growing number of young people who reject the forced use of the burqa. Their campaign, Sun Behind Curtain, aims to raise awareness about the basic rights of women with a photo exhibit that shows how the garment has relegated women to anonymous and faceless citizens. But organizers say the sexism represented by the burqa has also been used to great effect by terrorists and by some who wish to break the law.
Using burqa and disguising as women, unfortunately many bad acts, such as adultery, robbery, and suicide attack are taking place. And unfortunately, because women are treated with respect, people wearing burqas are not checked regularly.
It is a traditional requirement for women in Afghanistan to cover their faces with a hijab. But many religious leaders say the burqa, which covers a woman's entire body and face, is not a requirement of Islamic law.
Hijab is an Islamic requirement, but burqa as a hijab isn't mandatory in Islamic laws. Burqa is a non-Islamic tradition that has been promoted in Afghan society throughout history.
But the campaign may not sit well with some Afghan women, who argue that wearing the burqa makes them feel more comfortable and more secure.
I personally feel chadari is good because it covers my body appropriately and people can't see my body when I am out.
Many women in remote villages and districts in Afghanistan are forced to wear burqas because of societal pressure and the fear of being ostracized. The Sun Behind Curtain campaign hopes to raise awareness about the practice, which has already been banned in some Western countries. Their message is that being a good Muslim does not require women to be faceless and invisible. For Khalil Nurzai in Herat, Afghanistan, this is Bejan Hamdard, VOA News.
And with that report from Afghanistan, we come to the end of this edition of the news in which we heard about the Peter Mafane Mosonge's commission that was in Bamenda and that came to the end of their fact-finding mission, a mission that gave Cameroonians in that part of the country an opportunity to pour out their grievances in relation to the ongoing Anglophone crisis in the north and southwest regions. Then we equally heard about the Muslim community that began the intensive period of the month of Ramadan, a period in which they go in search of the night of destiny, which falls within the last 10 days of the fasting period. And equally in this newscast, we heard about water, which is believed to be a free gift of nature, but has become so scarce, especially in the Douala 3 and 5 municipalities, where city dwellers have turned to boreholes to solve their needs. That was the bit we put together in this edition of the news. Ladies and gentlemen, the next newscast will be coming up in the French language with Luc Serge Didier Nang. As for me, we would be together again, same time tomorrow for what would have made news. Until then, good night.